Do you want to know why gentle parenting is proving too rough for many parents? I've seen a lot of parents try their hand at, quote, gentle parenting and become incredibly frustrated. In this video, we're going to talk about why, and we're going to talk about what you can do instead so that you don't fall into some of the gentle parenting traps. So first off, let's talk about why gentle parenting really hit the world stage with such a smash. People were trying to bring back spanking. There was a movement in 2013 with the Battle Hymn of the Tiger Mama, where there was this parenting approach that was very aggressive, that was at the time being brought forward. So it was like to talk down to your children, to berate your children, to belittle them, attack them really verbally, psychologically, and people were like, well, that's not okay. And then some people were bringing back spanking with a real, heavy hand. And some people don't feel okay about that either, especially because if you can't spank a person for their whole life, why should you spank them when they're little? There's not a principle there. It just makes sense that there's not a principle. And by the way, I have multiple videos on this channel that do address spanking, so I'm not going to go into that right now and what my views on spanking are. But I will say that it's not necessary. I've raised some of the most difficult children that our society has, because I not only raised my own children, but I did level 3 therapeutic treatment care, foster parenting for troubled teens, and I couldn't lay a hand on them. And guess what? It wasn't necessary, and they could still have changes of behavior and changes of heart. And that's what I teach. But you do have to be firm and planned. So the thing with the gentle parenting approach is people were kind of primed and ready for it because there was all this emotional entitlement going on with the parenting, and they were getting emotionally aggressive with each other. And children, because of permissive parenting, were getting emotionally aggressive. So instead of going toward a truly structured approach, well, the author, I think, the original author of Gentle Parenting, was suggesting a more structured approach than what social media actually popularized. And so gentle parenting became something slightly different than what it started out as. That's really important to know. But at the same time, I feel like you could even give more structure to parents. And so that's why I'm here doing this video, to help you understand some things that you can do that really will work to solve some of the hardest problems. What happened is people accepted the gentle parenting approach without ever reading the book, without ever studying what it was really supposed to be, really detaching the idea of parenting from gentle and just going toward, I've just got to be gentle. And gentle to a lot of people means like emotionally understanding, emotionally connective to somebody. And so we really leaned in at a time in the therapeutic world, validation and affirmation. So affirming how you feel in absolutely everything has become very popular. We now have this parenting approach that comes in that says you've got to understand what they're feeling. Well, yes, seeking to understand your child in the moment of meltdown or whatever is actually a good thing, but the way you do it makes all the difference. So what parents started doing was becoming this little like therapist to their children. Well, why do you think you're having this? Well, tell me how you feel. Well, okay, that's an understandable feeling. Well, what would you like to do? What do you choose to do next? And became this very new approach to permissive parenting, where the child is the leader and the parent is the follower, and the parent spends their day trying to appease a child's emotions. This is incredibly emotionally draining. A parent can feel like they're not getting anywhere because the child is guiding by emotions, which means it's going to be a roller coaster up and down all the time. You're not seeing progress with this approach. You might see, oh, I understood their emotions. Oh, they felt understood for a minute. Now they're falling off the cliff again. Now they have new emotions, and they just keep playing with emotions. So it became this experimental, laboratory of just emotional outbursts, instead of saying, wait, this is the emotion. This is not productive. This isn't helping me. So how do we move on from here? Which would be a good parenting approach as opposed to a good gentle approach, if that makes sense. So the two terms together did not work. So exhaustion is one reason, a big reason why people have decided that gentle parenting is just too rough to handle. They get stuck in this emotional mire with everyone. Usually it's hard to maintain in a husband and wife relationship too, because one parent is seeing the other parent enable the child and they're like, wait, this is going wrong. That child is totally manipulating. So that's another thing. The parent roles are turned on their heads. The children are being given a free ticket to emotionally manipulate. They're like being given a play in the playbook that nobody's going to argue against or maybe call foul on. And so they start taking over, which undermines the parent authority to do any training. And so the parents are always on the reactive instead of on the proactive, which is really a struggle for them. Many parents became frustrated with thinking that they needed to be perfect and trying to remain calm even when somebody else was going out of control, and feeling like if they ever lost it or felt emotional that somehow they were, not good enough and not perfect. And I think there's a lot of perfectionism in our society nowadays, and it's really unfortunate because we can't be perfect in parenting. It's a learning process all the way along. Is calmness important? Yes, it's hugely important. In fact, I have a whole book on it that I've written called The Power of Calm. And so a lot of the things that I teach actually hinge on the concept of calmness and you going in that direction toward calmness and helping your children go there too. However, that doesn't mean that you're a failure if you experience some emotion. I mean, you're human, right? It's what you do with it. Like, how do I handle this? And can I learn how to create more productive emotions instead of non-productive emotions? Can I figure out those thoughts in my mind that are maybe trapping me? That type of approach is going to be much more empowering than just feeling like there's this gold standard of calmness, and if I can't reach it, I must be a failure, which is, I think, what a lot of people did. So finally, one other thing that parents, really noticed with the quote unquote gentle parenting approach was that their children were behaviorally diving off a cliff, taking risky behaviors, not discerning between what they should do, just being more impulsive. And so we have impulsivity in our culture right now on the rise. And a lot of that stems from this approach of gentle parenting and just really making everything about feelings all the time instead of about duty ever. Young people need to understand a sense of obligation, honor, loyalty, duty. They need to value their roles and their parents' roles. And it's up to a parent to teach that. In fact, there's a whole book that I've written called Roles: The Secret to Family, Business, and Social Success, which actually helps establish those roles and teach that for the family. So there's a lot of reasons why people just decided, this gentle parenting approach is just a little bit too rough. Now, I think probably the author of the movement wanted parents to not take things personally, not get aggressive, not get heavy-handed with their children, not do things that they would regret. So basically have a plan, but I'm not sure if the plan was given concretely enough. But that's something that I can absolutely help you with. So everything that I teach here on this channel, the Teaching Self-Government channel, will be incredibly predictable, which means that decreases anxiety for parent and for child because you know how to handle the problem. Then it's based upon certain skills. So there's skills that you learn that will help you handle your circumstances. So for instance, you might teach your child one of the 4 basic skills. So I actually have children's books that teach all of these 4 basic skills, and they're part of my trainings and stuff. But the 4 basic skills of self-government are following instructions, accepting no answers and criticism, accepting consequences, and disagreeing appropriately. So let's say I pick that second one, which is accepting no answers and criticism. Well, there's key steps to that skill, which are to look at the person or the situation, keep a calm face, voice, and body, say okay or ask to disagree appropriately, and then drop the subject. So if something happens in my life that I don't like, that's a no answer. If there's a boundary line I shouldn't cross over, that's a no answer. If someone tells me no, that's also a no answer. There's a lot of different things that could be classified as no answers. I suggest to you that's one of the most difficult skills for a person to learn, because they have to decide to problem solve in a different direction than they originally expected to go in. When a parent gives their child a no answer, let's say for a treat or a snack or something, and the child is able to look at the parent and say, okay, but the child does not keep a calm face, voice, and body. Maybe they go, oh. And that's kind of a whining sort of a thing. If they do that, then the parent can say, oh, okay, you are saying, okay, you're looking at me, but you're clearly not dropping the subject because you're still whining about it. And you're not keeping a calm face, voice, and body because you moaned and you threw your head back and you closed your eyes and you sighed about it. Now, is it okay to feel a disappointment? Sure, it's okay to be disappointed about something. But is it okay? Is it healthy for a person to allow their disappointments to control their interactions all of the time? Or could they just say, well, that's disappointing, but I can choose to be okay? Where does the empowerment actually come in? So in the teaching self-government approach, what would happen is a person would get the opportunity to be corrected for not keeping a calm face, voice, and body, or not dropping the subject. Now, someone might say, well, wait a minute, does that mean they can't talk about their feelings? Does that mean they can't experience any emotion like disappointment? No, they can, but that doesn't mean that they should try to control other people. That doesn't mean that it's going to be healthy for them to wallow in it, right? So they might say, okay, and then they could even say to their parent, hey, mom, can I disagree appropriately about that? And the mom would say, sure, because that's another one of their 4 basic skills. Because mom's always going to say yes if they ask to disagree appropriately. So then they'd say, mom, I understand that you don't want me to have a snack right now, but I actually didn't get the opportunity to finish all my lunch because we had to go today. And so I really am kind of hungry and I feel like I need something. Is there something else that I could have? Or that's disappointing that I don't get my snack, and because I usually am used to having a snack every day. So that's really hard not to have a snack. Is there something I can tell myself so that I don't feel disappointed? They can ask for help. They can talk about what they're experiencing for a second with their parent. They can let the parent know where they're coming from. Now, a wise parent would say, I know this is disappointing, but we don't have time for the snack right now. We'll probably have it in the car, right? So the parent would try to acknowledge what a child might be feeling. That would alleviate that frustration to begin with. But if they forget to do that, the child has a way where they can discuss with their parents and still not be disempowering to themselves or power struggling or manipulative in their interaction with their parents, which keeps the roles in the right place, empowers everybody, keeps the family united, communicating effectively, and now you have more time to discuss a lot of other fun things like that movie you wanted to watch tonight, the game you want to play, the friends you're going to go see, what you're excited about, what you remember about your childhood. Listen, there's a lot more things that are more fun to talk about with our children and can even be instructive for life besides just behaviors. So let's keep our behavior conversations streamlined. If we have some good skills that we can utilize and we maintain a good tone, which means we've got calmness, understanding, then we can really benefit our children. Now, there is a calm parenting toolkit that I would love to share with you. This is a great first step for self-government because without calmness, it does kind of all fall apart. Being calm is gentle, but being calm and planned with the direction you're going would actually be a better form of gentle parenting. Not that I want to coin the phrase. I think teaching a person self-government, self-mastery, how to be okay with disappointments is actually a much more empowered approach to take. And so you can find this Calm Parenting Toolkit for free that I would like to give you on my website, teachingselfgovernment.com. So if you go to go.teachingselfgovernment.com, and you can find the Calm Parenting Toolkit right there on that page. It's not a full training, but it'll get you started. Go to go.teachingselfgovernment.com today. I'll see you there.